once again, we're going to measure halfway, top and bottom, on the card so that we can get that fold right. Making sure that we are actually marking in exactly the same place, top and bottom, so that we can actually get that scoring down the center of the card just right. Centering the ruler against the marks, not on top of the marks. Remembering again that the scorer does take up a little bit of space, so we actually need to allow for that when we're scoring. And starting at the top and pulling through into the bottom. Lift up the card with the scorer if you want to. This is just another technique which can help to give a nice crisp finish. Run your scorer along behind the card up against the ruler, so you've already got it semi-folded. So then all you have to do is fold it over, use your scorer and pull it along the side. So again, we're starting with that yellowy orange color. Again, loading your cotton ball so that you have plenty of chalk on it. Don't be frightened to put lots and lots of color onto your cotton ball. You can rub it off, and I'll tell you what, it's a lot easier to put lots on at the beginning. Remembering also between each color that you apply to the card, just give it a bit of a tap. So otherwise, when you apply another color with a cotton ball, all you're going to be doing is essentially milking the colors together. Now for my nice peacock blue, and again loading my cotton ball up so it is really dark, and as you can see there, it's quite strong. When I put the pink on, I'm actually going to blend into the other colors a little bit so that I don't get quite so much of that really strong dotty effect, which is not my preferred look when I'm working with chalks. And you can start to do it with the blue if you want to, by just, you know, moving it through, and it just draws it out a little bit, and quite in a very, you know, rough sort of way. So now I'm going to start working my pink in, and I'm going to end up with a little bit more of a violety color, because I am going to work it through the blue so that I don't have very distinct edges. I don't want those distinct edges on this particular card. So again, just continuing to pick up the color and fill in the gaps, just remembering that if you do go back over the top, you are going to milk them a little bit more. And again, as I said before, there's no harm in doing that. You just end up with a slightly different finish to what you will if you don't actually milk them. So now I'm actually going across, which is giving me that violety effect, which is actually giving me a far more Milky Way finish to my card. Just going to get my tissue and just gently rub that across, just to get off the excess that I don't want on there. Just brush that off. Get rid of that dirty tissue. Now this time we're going to use a different stamp. I'm going to use a stamp that just has a tiny little bit more detail in it, a hat with some roses and things. And I'm going to stamp this one, and I'm going to do it on an angle just to the top left of the card, and then we're going to emboss with white. So what will actually happen is the white will just pop out from the color and the cream background of the card. Today we're going to use a clear ink pad, which is called Versamark. So we're going to use a clear ink pad today, and we're going to put white embossing powder over the top. It will pick it up. It would be, as I said, much stronger if I used a white ink pad, but I want to show you that you don't actually have to have the same color ink pad as embossing powder. You can get a really nice result with just going with the cheaper option if that's what you want to do. So just firmly but gently, just small gentle taps all the way across the pad. Looking at that, you can see that it's very shiny, so we've got the ink everywhere that we want it. If I had a cotton tip or what we call an earbud here, there's a little bit of ink in the center in there where I don't really want it. I would use the earbud, wipe that off, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. So we're just going to hold the card firmly again with my small finger, and I'm going to just sit this hat down. I want it on a little bit of an angle, so I'm just going to put it straight down on there, and I'm going to press very firmly. Not a good look, but I want to put the white embossing powder over the top, covering my stamp pad so I don't get the powder over the top of it. What I am going to do is open my card out once again, and I've got white embossing powder, and I'm just going to cover that, and I'm going to tip it all over it so it covers it completely. Give it a gentle tap so that you can see I've got the whole image is completely covered Alright, set the card aside once again, ensuring that you do pick up your embossing powder on your paper, make a bit of a funnel and tip it back in there so that you preserve as much of that powder as that you can possibly do. Preheat my heat gun, and then once again I'll show you what actually happens as we emboss that image. So I'm going to I tend to like to hold my gun this way, get a little bit more control. I'm going to start at the top of my image. And I'm actually, you see that white is starting to transfer now, it's melting onto the card, and I'm just very, very slowly working my way across the image all the way through. And you can see that it's melting and it's raising up off the card as it melts that embossing powder, and that is done. So switching off my heat gun, popping that down, I'll just fold this so that you can actually see. Now, doesn't that look magnificent? It is just beautiful. And again, you can add to that. So I'm going to add a little bit of a verse to the bottom of it, a little word, but I want to let that cool down. If you feel the underneath of the card, it's very, very warm. Just touch it. If I put powder onto there now, that's actually hot enough that it will semi-melt it, and I'm going to get spicks and specks of powder and embossed everywhere, and I really don't want that. Great if you want a snow look, and it's actually a very quick and easy way to do snow, but that's not the look that we want today. So it's almost cool enough, so I'll just spread that out again, and I'm going to get just a little enjoy stamp, and I'm just going to again ink up that stamp with my clear embossing pad, the Versamark, just gently tapping so I've got it all inked up really, really well. And I'm just going to put that down here in the corner, fairly symmetrical because my hat is off on a different angle, pressing firmly into the center and lifting straight off the pad. Cover my pad up, grab my white embossing powder, cover it over and emboss it, and we're almost done. Just tapping it off, and as you can see, that's the embossed image. This is the one that hasn't been. It's actually quite clear once you start to do it. I'm just going to reseal my embossing powder. Once you've actually started and you've done this a few times, it's actually quite easy to see where you haven't embossed and where you have. It is much more difficult if you're working with clear powder and clear embossing pad, because then you are really going on, again, you know, it's training your eye to actually look for what may or may not have been embossed. So start at the top, and again, as you can see, started almost immediately. We're just going to go backwards and forwards just to emboss that word, and there we go, it's already done. Fold that card up and look at that, it looks great. Once again, I'm not a big one for these straight corners. I find that they're quite harsh, and if you've got a really nice image and design on the front of your card, finish off your corners, because it can actually make or break the finish end product of what you're trying to work with. So for this one, because we've got a really nice feminine image, we're actually going to go with a corner punch that is a little bit of a scallop on there, and it just gives it a nice floral finish, and given that we've got a little bit of floral on the card, it'll tie in nicely and finish it off. So popping the card firmly into that corner, ensuring that we do have it all the way in and it's folded well, pressing firmly on the top, and it can be quite difficult to do. Pressing firmly, and look at that, looks fantastic. Don't forget to do your other corners, because if you do, it will look really dodgy. You do get a little bit of residue from the chalks on the inside of your card or on the back of your card, and if it's on the inside of your card, it just doesn't, again, finish off very well, and doesn't really add to the quality of what you're trying to achieve. So therefore, to be able to make it look really nicely finished off and have that really classy feel, you would then get what we call an insert liner and put an insert in, and then once you've got your insert in and you open it up, you write on your insert paper, and it looks great, and it's as good as any store-bought card that you could go and find anywhere. So once again, we've got to that stage now. I'm going to lightly spray the card with the hairspray just to seal that chalk on there, and then it's all completed, and you've got a beautiful handmade card that doesn't really look like it's a handmade card at all.